impact on his players and community. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Joe Collins.
And I'm Taylor Mondragon. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. A former Ohio college physician is being charged with multiple counts of rape and other sex crimes involving 15 women.
Donald Gronbeck was indicted on 50 counts dating back to 2017 last week in Greene County. The 42-year-old former doctor had his own medical practice and was the campus physician at Antioch College and Yellow Springs from 2015 to 2019. Gronbeck surrendered his license earlier this year after the State Medical Board of Ohio suspended him. Gronbeck's attorney said yesterday there's, quote, another version of events from the one told by the Greene County prosecutor, David Hayes. Gronbeck's arraignment is tomorrow. Advocates for Ohioans who have survived childhood sexual abuse are pushing for bills that they say would help survivors, protect kids, and prevent more abuse. State House correspondent Karen Kasler reports they're hoping lawmakers will take action on several bills during the lame duck legislative session after next month's election. The abuse trafficking group Child USA estimates 13% of Americans experience childhood sex abuse. Advocates want lawmakers to eliminate the time limits on reporting child sex crimes and to require age-appropriate school curriculum on child sex abuse and violence. Ohio's suicide hotline could soon see a fee attached. Advocates for the suicide hotline are proposing a 50-cent monthly fee on cell phones in hopes of keeping the suicide hotline alive. This push comes as funding for the hotline is drying up quickly, with the $20 million in initial federal funding for the hotline set to run out in June. Federal funding for suicide hotlines across the country are slim as well, with nearly 150 centers across the country closed due to no funding. Advocates for the bill say funding for the hotline shouldn't come from other health services. The Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation estimates 1,730 Ohioans die by suicide every year, nearly 5 lives lost every day.
National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day is this weekend, and many Ohio counties are joining the nation in the fight against prescription drug abuse. The Drug Enforcement Agency is holding its annual event to discreetly and safely dispose of old or unneeded prescriptions. Prescription drugs can be toxic, and disposing them could eliminate potential overdoses. The event is happening nationwide this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Muskingum, Scioto, and Portsmouth are just a few of the counties with available drop-off locations. To find a collection site closest to you and for more information on the national event, call 1-800-882-9539.
Good afternoon, Southeastern Ohio. I'm Newswatch forecaster Jacob Van Cleve. Well, with a little bit of weather going on through our region last night, you saw that cold front push through, bring some rain, drop those temperatures throughout the day. Those nice warm temperatures we were experiencing the last couple days, well, those have ended, and we've got those cooler fall-like temperatures within the region. Now, those cooler temperatures are expected to continue through the next couple of days as this low-pressure system you see behind me here is funneling its way out of the region, and high pressure will settle in. Now, that high pressure is going to bring those cooler winds, and it's also going to bring those cooler temperatures. Now, the computer, again, doesn't want to cooperate with me with the clicker here, but I will talk a little bit more about what the weather's kind of going to expect to see throughout the rest of the week. You'll have that high pressure making temperatures cooler, and you'll see Athens today, you had a high of 57, and it's going to drop into the high 30s tonight. Now, as that those temperatures do stay cooler throughout the remainder of the week, you'll see that as a common occurrence where you have partly cloudy skies, but those cool conditions. That's all I have for first weather. Back to you guys at the desk.
Today is National Pumpkin Day, and so we went to Libby's Pumpkin Patch for their final weekend to see what the fall season is really all about. For 8 years, Libby's Pumpkin Patch in Albany has welcomed Ohioans to its family fun festivities in the fall.
I love this place, so just a great family thing and a great memory.
For the past month, people have been celebrating the start of fall here at Libby's, from picking pumpkins, hopping on the hayride, and celebrating mini victories here at the corn maze.
Started very small and worked up to this, just selling a few extra pumpkins, and then it ballooned into all this.
This newfound interest from locals opened up opportunities for growth.
People showed up and they're like, well, what else do you have to do? So we then expanded, into hay bale creatures, corn maze, better, and then these big slides over the hill we have now, and all the photo opportunities.
As the community flooded in, the family named the farm after their then 10-year-old daughter Libby, who is now a freshman at Ohio University.
So I'm glad they actually know it was named after me, because everybody thinks that I was named after the pumpkin patch.
After a full day of activities, Libby's also boasts a selection of local food trucks to satisfy everyone's cravings.
French fries. I ate pizza bites and pizza and brownie.
At the end of the day, community members leave with full bellies, happy hearts, and a cart full of pumpkins. You know what's so great is that they actually bought that farm on Halloween.
Absolutely, and you can't talk about Halloween without bringing up pumpkins and carving pumpkins as well.
Definitely. The White House releases a new plan to help Americans as inflation rises. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, playoffs. New Lexington looks to keep their season alive at home, taking on perennial powerhouse Bishop Hartley. Gallia Academy has had an impressive season, but the red-hot Licking Valley Panthers can halt them in their tracks. And it's a new chapter for Logan Elm, but they'll need to keep up with the explosive Cambridge offense. It's win or go home for 60 Southeast Ohio teams, Friday night at 11:30 on WOUB. So remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights at Gridiron Glory.
On Secrets of the Dead, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Was it caused by a changing climate?
It gets colder and colder and less appealing in terms of crop growth.
Or a series of virulent pandemics?
The extensive pestilence was something never seen before.
The end of the Romans on Secrets of the Dead.
This is Canada, where dramatic landscapes are home to equally dramatic survival stories. For the creatures here, timing is everything. The difference between life and death, and the secret to success in this wild north.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Now streaming on the PBS app, Antiques Road Trip.
I like it.
20 seasons.
Ooh, pretty good, yeah.
Of antiques experts.
Oh, stop it.
Scouring Britain in classic cars.
Yeah, baby.
On the hunt for hidden treasures.
I think I found something.
It's brilliant.
The goal? To make the biggest profit at auction.
You're some man.
There'll be worthy winners and valiant losers. Antiques Road Trip. Stream all episodes now with Passport on the PBS app.
Welcome back. Over 1 million more Ohio voters opt to cast their votes early.
That's compared to the 2018 gubernatorial statewide race. Frank LaRose, the Ohio Secretary of State, announced the numbers today, stating over 130,000 Ohioans have voted in person and over 900,000 have requested an absentee ballot by mail. For those who would still like to vote with an absentee ballot, LaRose urges you to mail your request soon. To get the request, head to the Secretary of State's website at www.boe.ohio.edu. If you're a West Virginia citizen and would like to vote early, you can start casting your vote tomorrow. Early voting will be available in all the counties in the state until November 5th, 3 days before Election Day. Voters will not only make decisions on candidates, but also if amendments should be made to the state's constitution. The last time voters considered an amendment on the ballot was an abortion-related question in 2018. To find out your early voting location, check with your county clerk's office. The head of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is outlining what he sees as the main threats to this year's midterm elections. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas shared his concerns today about threats to cybersecurity and the physical security of election workers, as well as the threat of misinformation and disinformation. Mayorkas pointed to Russia, Iran, and China as countries distributing false or inaccurate information to undermine the integrity of the election. He also highlighted recent threats election officials have faced, noting the department is providing training and assistance and giving election officials information and intelligence to help them navigate the situation. Prices are rising and a recession could be looming. Polls show that's the biggest concern among voters.
But that is not the case for many bankers. Amy Kiley has more from both groups.
And sometimes I only eat one meal a day.
Recent polls show inflation and the economy are the biggest issues among voters. But some of the nation's top bankers say they're worried about something else.
Everything is going up except our income.
A new report indicates consumer confidence is the lowest it's been since July, and the conference board says inflation is the main reason for the drop.
I'm taking maybe a week to two longer between haircuts.
Higher prices are forcing some people to curb their spending. If enough Americans do that, financial experts say the whole economy could slow down.
I think the economy is likely sometime in the next year and a half to go into recession.
Plenty of people who run the nation's financial sector think that too.
Economic conditions are going to tighten meaningfully from here.
Remember what the 2008 recession was like for some businesses in that industry?
These are stunning developments. Two of Wall Street's iconic names, Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch, falling on the same day.
But some top bankers and investors say inflation and a possible recession are not their biggest concerns. A group of them has been meeting in Saudi Arabia this week.
We'll manage right through that. I would worry much more about the geopolitics of the world today.
Specifically,
there's an existential risk of war, international war.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
President Joe Biden took aim at the economy today, laying out the steps his administration is taking to provide consumers with what it calls more breathing room. This comes as millions of Americans continue to struggle with rising costs. Chris Wen is in Washington.
Today, my administration is announcing new actions to lower the cost of everyday living for American families, to put more money in the pockets of middle income and working class Americans, to hold big corporations accountable.
The Biden administration is now taking action across agencies to help cut down on so-called junk fees, defining them as designed either to confuse or deceive consumers or to take advantage of lock-in or other forms of situational market power.
These are junk fees. They're unfair and they hit marginalized Americans the hardest, especially low-income folks.
According to officials with the National Economic Council, the fees fall into 4 categories: mandatory fees that often hide the full price, surprise fees that consumers learn after purchase, exploitative or predatory fees, and fraudulent fees. The White House points to hidden charges and added fees on airline tickets, hotel bookings, and cable bills. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is issuing guidance on some banking fees.
We're taking enforcement actions, like one against a large bank for charging illegal overdraft fees, and customers will see hundreds of millions of dollars in refunds.
The new rulemaking process aims to make fees more transparent and comes with the midterms less than 2 weeks away.
This is an attempt to tell voters that they are trying to ease the pains of the pocketbook, because that's what Republicans have said over and over again.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
The move to curb inflation costs comes as inflation rates reach historic highs. The rate of inflation is currently at 8.2% and is set to be updated on November 10th.
With inflation on the rise and Halloween just around the corner, consumers will have to scare up a little extra money for candy. The cost of chocolate bars and the like are expected to be 14% higher compared to 2021, according to a report from S&P Global Market Intelligence. Analysts say the increase shouldn't come as a surprise to households. Inflation has been impacting the cost of just about everything. Despite this, Americans are not being frightened away. The National Retail Federation says consumers are expected to spend $10.6 billion this Halloween. That's about $500 million more than last year. A new survey says people feel more socially connected as COVID-19 precautions ease. That story's still ahead.
And cooler temperatures and drier conditions expected coming throughout the next of the week. I'll talk more about that in my full forecast when Newswatch returns. In the meantime, check us out on social media. You can find us at YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
This is Canada, where dramatic landscapes are home to equally dramatic survival stories. For the creatures here, timing is everything. The difference between life and death. And the secret to success in this wild north.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Now streaming on the PBS app, Antiques Road Trip.
I like it.
20 seasons.
Ooh, pretty good, yeah.
Of antiques experts.
Oh, stop it.
Scouring Britain in classic cars.
Yeah, baby.
On the hunt for hidden treasures.
I think I found something.
It's brilliant.
The goal? To make the biggest profit at auction.
You're some man.
There'll be worthy winners and valiant losers. Antiques Road Trip. Stream all episodes now with Passport on the PBS app.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, playoffs. New Lexington looks to keep their season alive at home, taking on perennial powerhouse Bishop Hartley. Gallia Academy has had an impressive season, but the red-hot Licking Valley Panthers can halt them in their tracks. And it's a new chapter for Logan Elm, but they'll need to keep up with the explosive Cambridge offense. It's win or go home for 60 Southeast Ohio teams, Friday night at 11:30 on WOUB. So remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights at Gridiron Glory.
On Secrets of the Dead, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Was it caused by a changing climate?
It gets colder and colder and less appealing in terms of crop growth.
Or a series of virulent pandemics?
The extensive pestilence was something never seen before.
The end of the Romans. On Secrets of the Dead.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Welcome back, Southeastern Ohio. I'm Newswatch forecaster Jacob Van Cleve. Early in the show, I was talking about that low pressure system that came through our region last night, and that brought some significant rain. Now, behind that cold front, you did notice that those temperatures today were no longer as warm as they have been the last several days. Now, those temperatures did expect to drop, as now we do have high pressure that's eventually going to funnel this low pressure system out of the region. It's going to get rid of that rain, and it's going to dry things up quite nicely. Now, how does that reflect for Athens? Athens itself, you can see there's nothing really going on. There's a little bit of rain to the north of us in Pittsburgh, but beyond that, we are going to have those cool conditions, and that's going to continue as we move on throughout the remainder of the week here. Now, beyond Athens, you can see temperatures in Lancaster were a high of 52 degrees. You saw Wilmington with a low of, or high of 54. You also have Charleston here at a high of 54, and same temperatures there in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Now, Athens itself, you saw highs today at a high of 57 degrees, and you're going to see those temperatures tonight drop down to 37 degrees as conditions are expected to be cloudy. Now, those mostly cloudy conditions will continue throughout the remainder of the night, and you're also going to see those temperatures stay cooler as we move on through the week. Now, why is it going to stay cooler throughout the remainder of the week? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more with that with this surface analysis plot that we have here. You have the high pressure over Michigan, and that high pressure is going to make those conditions cooler, and it's going to funnel that surface or that low pressure system that was originally in the region out and away. Now you can see it over here. You see a little bit of like a frontal boundary and a little bit of rain up north here. Now that's associated with another low pressure system that will develop across the country, but it is not expected to affect us here directly in Athens. Now, Athens, when you look at Athens tomorrow, you'll see a high of 59 degrees, and those conditions are going to be partly sunny. Again, it's going to be cooler. It's not going to be as warm as what we had in the last couple days, but they are still going to be nice with those temperatures dipping down into 37 degrees overnight. Now, tomorrow night, Athens, again, that high pressure is just going to remain in the region, so it's going to make things calmer and cooler. No rain, but you can see over my shoulder here, on this side, my apologies, that's going to be the rain that's going to sit with that low pressure system that won't affect us here in Athens. Now, again, we move on to Friday and throughout today. That dry line here that is now on the surface analysis, that's just going to emphasize that high pressure is going to bring those dry conditions and also, thankfully, cooler skies for Friday night. Now, if we take a look at Athens for your 3-day weekend, your Halloween weekend just looks great. Well, that is until we reach Sunday. Friday, you have a high of 63, low of 37. Saturday, you have a high of 67, low of 43. And then Sunday, you see that 30% showers with a high of 64 and a low of 49. Now, as we continue throughout the week, you can see that little rain block between Sunday and Monday. That's just going to be rain associated coming later in the week. I might talk about that a little bit more in my full forecast. That's all I have for you. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Jacob. A new international survey shows most people in 7 countries, including the United States, say they feel socially connected as COVID-19 precautions ease. Mandy Gaither has more on the findings and why social connections are so important to our health.
At the height of the pandemic, with businesses shut down and people shut in, staying connected to others may not have been easy.
Human connection, it's wired into our DNA.
But a new survey by Gallup and Facebook's parent company Meta, conducted in 7 countries between April and June, shows most people feel a sense of social connection as the world eases COVID-19 precautions. In the U.S., 75% who took part said they feel very or fairly emotionally connected to others.
There's a need for us to be connected, but it does look like the pandemic did not disrupt that we are able to adapt as a species and continue that important connection.
However, at least a third of those who took part in each country said they needed support or help from someone often or sometimes in the previous month. In the U.S., 71% of those surveyed said they'd interacted in person at least once a day over the previous week, while 68% connected via text and 59% interacted over the phone.
Those who were over 65 and had a bigger social group or a bigger friend group, that tended to be associated with feeling less lonely.
As did being married and being financially stable. People who reported living comfortably felt that they had more social support than those who were finding it difficult on their current income. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
At least a third of people in each country except India said that they interacted with others on social media on a daily basis.
Still ahead, how the legacy of a baseball coach, player, and friend continues to live on through the people he impacted in the program he coached for. That story and more when Newswatch returns.
On Secrets of the Dead, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Was it caused by a changing climate?
It gets colder and colder and less appealing in terms of crop growth.
Or a series of virulent pandemics?
The extensive pestilence was something never seen before.
The end of the Romans on Secrets of the Dead.
Next time on The War, a forgotten island called Peleliu.
The world was a nightmare of flashes, violent explosions, snapping bullets.
And a pointless battle comes at a terrible price.
We just went crazy. We were mad at everybody and were ready to kill anything that there was.
Part 5 of The War.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
This is Canada, where dramatic landscapes are home to equally dramatic survival stories. For the creatures here, timing is everything. The difference between life and death, and the secret to success in this wild north.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
On Secrets of the Dead, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Was it caused by a changing climate?
It gets colder and colder and less appealing in terms of crop growth.
Or a series of virulent pandemics?
The extensive pestilence was something never seen before.
The end of the Romans on Secrets of the Dead.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Good evening and welcome back. I'm Haley Hollinger. The late Bill Waddell was a coach for Athens Bulldogs baseball for 12 years, but his impact goes beyond baseball and will last long after his coaching career. Waddell was a baseball player, a coach, a teacher, and an inspiration. He coached varsity baseball for 12 years, was assistant coach to Ed Renault, Legion baseball, and 7th grade basketball. Nate Schaller played for Waddell as a child and said that he always knew how to keep atmospheres fun and positive.
It was never a bad time with him. Never. It was always a positive outlook on life, on things. Things can always be worse. And he held that true all the way through. I mean, it was just one of those things.
Waddell encouraged his players to follow their dreams.
He did, but it wasn't necessarily just tailored to baseball. It was chase whatever dream that you have. It wasn't related necessarily, to the best interest of what you have or what you want.
Bob Woodell made an impact on everyone that stepped on the field and everyone who stepped into one of his classrooms. His memory and his heart lives on through the people that he impacted throughout his life.
Todd Nuzum is currently the head coach of Athens baseball, but he played for Woodell in high school and fondly remembers how he guided his team.
He was such a player's coach. You wanted to come out here and perform in front of him. You wanted to play well because everyone liked him so much. He was fun to be around. You hated when practice was over because he had to leave him.
He will be greatly missed, but his memory will live on and off the field.
Drills created by Coach Woodell are still used in practice, just one way his legacy continues to carry on. Basketball season is almost upon us, and the Maximum Basketball 2022-23 preseason coaches poll was released earlier today. In the preseason poll, the Bobcats fall in the upper third of the pack. They're projected to have a dominant season. Ohio's ranked in the top 5, falling behind Ball State, Akron, Toledo, and Kent. The coaches rank Kent State at the top with 135 points. And per the preseason polls, the Flashes will be the team to beat. Ohio will play their first regular season game at the Convo November 3rd against Capital. Ohio women's soccer has been making moves recently. They have won 3 of their last 4 matches, beating Toledo and Western Michigan back-to-back. Their recent success puts them in the middle of playoff seeding. Ohio plays at Akron tomorrow. The Bobcats' playoff hopes are in their own hands. A win against the Zips would secure their spot in the playoffs. And if they lose, then Ohio would need Western Michigan to lose their next game at Toledo for the Bobcats to get a playoff spot. So what do you guys think about women's soccer? Where do you think they're going to fall?
Well, can't go wrong against these Bobcats. They've been resilient all year. We'll see if they're up to the challenge tomorrow. And now we're going to throw it over to Jacob for a look at final weather.
Yes, well, thank you again. Temperatures tonight, you'll see a low of 37, mostly cloudy skies. That is, again, because of that low pressure system that went through and the high pressure moving into the region. Things are going to be quite cool, and they're going to be chillier as we move on throughout the week. Now, Athens, tomorrow, you're going to see temperatures at highs of 57 degrees, and you're going to see that low drop down to 37 degrees. Now, Athens, throughout the remainder of the week here, you're going to have temperatures Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all be relatively nice and cool, but you're going to have rain expected to move in Sunday and Monday. Now, Monday you will have 60% chance of rain, and that might ruin your holiday plans, but Ohio takes on Buffalo on Tuesday with some great weather conditions.
Thanks, Jacob. And finally tonight, scientists have discovered 6 new species of rain frogs in Ecuador. According to a statement from the country's Ministry of Environment, Water, and Ecological Transition, the new species were all found in remote places and national parks on the eastern slopes of the Ecuadorian Andes. Discoveries took place during multiple expeditions over several years. The scientists decided to name one of the species Resistencia, or Resistance, in honor of environmental activists killed in Latin America. They say over the past decade, Latin America has been one of the most dangerous regions in the world for environmental advocates. Do you want to know an interesting fact about frogs? Is that frogs don't drink water. They absorb it through their skin.
No way.
Absolutely. Do you know why? It's because they're cold-blooded and they maintain their own body heat, so they don't need to take an outside source of water.
That is so crazy.
That's really cool.
You learn something every day.
All right, and that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at Newswatch, I'm Taylor Mondragon.
And I'm Joe Collins. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org. Have a great night.
Nice killing the frogs. I like it. I wish I didn't have to drink water. I would have to carry around my big water bottle.
Support comes from Help Me Grow, providing home visiting, helping pregnant mothers and parents tackle the big and little challenges of being a parent. Home visiting professionals listen, answer questions, provide